everybody, and welcome to week 3 of this new season of the Aegis Marauders League. It is hot out there, and things are really heating up in this season of the AML. My name is Moose, and joining me as always is Jack. Jack, good to see ya. Excited for another week of AML action. But before we get into that, how was your weekend? How are things going on your side?
Weekend was great. Excited to watch all of our final teams qualify for the mid-season invitational. We've got our teams going to be starting the tournament pretty soon. So, excited about professional league at every level, including us here at the AML.
Wonderful. And that, brings us in to the new to this new week of play. Week 3, a lot more teams, a lot more content, a lot more players to cover. And this week we did have one match selected, did have to get a reschedule though. So we are going to be seeing another great game, Maelstrom Esports versus Dorado Gaming Zeta. Two teams that are in the Noxus division looking to be able to find their spot more in the middle of the pack. A lot of 1-1 teams at the start of the season want to see if they can maybe get themselves into a 2-1 spot, put them in that second or third place position. As we get ourselves into the draft here, we kind of take a look at the teams. Maelstrom Esports, a lot of players that we are familiar with here, Jack.
Yep, we got Jin, top lane, overrate jungle, TV General Zilyana in the mid lane, who we see in both AML and AVL. And then Jaw and Poro are a little bit newer. Even those subs, Leth is a player that we've seen in other leagues as well. And then if we kick it over to the Dorado Gaming Zeta side, of course, if you're a fan of Aegis, you've heard Dorado Gaming. This is one of their two teams. We have Void, Yitz, we're going to get back to you on that name. I want to make sure we got it. Trinity, Joker, and Hushiumi. Good lineup of players that have a lot of solo queue games, a lot of grinded games, a lot of pocket picks. So really excited for this matchup. And as we get into this draft, I'm really interested to see how Dorado Gaming play it, because based on what we've seen so far, they get pretty unique, and the bans I'm seeing so far reflect that uniqueness. Volibear and Aurora are going to target not only flex picks, but comfort. Kits, the jungler for Dorado, has 249 Volibear games, so very into that. And then the Rumble response is going after Jin in the top lane, who plays a lot of Rumble, has played it in this league already. Syndra is at General Zilyana, and then Gwen is just because this champ is still very good. You're muted as we get the Jace first pick coming in.
This?
What were you going to say?
I was going to say that we've been seeing the Gwen get banned quite a lot this summer. Pantheon and Volibear are two champions that we've been seeing popping up almost every week as well. So a lot of meta bans coming in from both sides. But it is going to be that B1 Jace. We've seen how powerful being on blue side is for teams this year. You showed us some incredible stats of the teams that, one on blue side versus one on red, and the percentage was staggering, like 17% or something like that advantage to blue side. So a B1 Jace, don't necessarily know if it's the best option, because it does allow for Dorado Gaming to then pick up that Varus, which is one of those key B1 picks that we've been seeing almost in every Fearless draft. And now we're going to get the Sejuani paired with it. I'm really liking this start for Dorado.
Yeah, the Jace first pick, I feel like it's best to do that if you can truly flex it between that mid and top lane position. Jin in the top lane does play it, so we at least know that if it goes to the most common position, and if this is locked in, it would ensure it, that he would at least be proficient. Bear's getting picked up. I do believe nerfs are coming in next patch finally for MSI. They want to get everything. They're kind of hitting everything that's been super meta and bringing up some stuff that's been on the precipice. I love the Sejuani grab because it gives you that front line that Varus needs. The response of Talia makes sense. It's the most present mid laner. And the Sivir pickup, I have been seeing this champion pop up more often. And I'm not sure if it is in conjunction with an item or a rune change that maybe went under the radar, but I think Sivir functions very well if you have damage in other lanes, and having Jason Talia certainly provides that.
And that puts us back into the other side. Dorado gonna go with the Yone. One of those champions that definitely is gonna feel like it is a pocket pick. Something that has a lot of comfort for the team. But considering the lockdown that Dorado Gaming already has with the Chains Corruption and the Glacial Prison, if you're able to set up for a big Fate and Sealed, you have a huge opportunity to get massive damage in. You have an opportunity to just make team fights end before they even begin. The lineup here for Maelstrom, not necessarily the healthiest, going to be very susceptible to getting picked off. And so we'll see what they want to decide to go for in terms of bans. We've seen Dorado Gaming's now. Trundle going to get taken away, as well as the Rel. And on the other side, the Alistar and the Shen.
Yep. Yone also a flex pick as well, but I'm pretty sure it's going to go to Trinity. It's one of their most played champions across solo queue and in their Agents games so far. They are 0-1, but they had a bye week one of these first 2 weeks. So in reality, they've only had one matchup. They went 1-2 in it. And I feel like that shows me that there is, good competition on this team in this division. Maelstrom, they are 1-1 series wise with the 2-2 game score. They went 2-0 their first week, and then it got 0-2'd by DDG. So I'm excited to see what they can do over the course of a series, especially against a team that, while being winless, had a very competitive series. There's the word. And I'm happy to see this Mbessa be the pickup here. Void in the top lane for Dorado has some very, very niche picks with a lot of practice, Shen being one of them, although that has kind of risen in the meta. I'm glad to see them pick something reliable and blind it in this game one so that they can be a bit more out there in the next couple games when there aren't as much safe stuff available. Exactly.
Yeah, and we'll see if they are able to do it. It is a champion that can start to steamroll games if you're able to get going. And it does look like we are going to get a battle in the top lane. Two champions that can start to get kills early on, the Renekton versus Mbessa, as the Braum is going to be the support pickup with the Sivir there in the bottom lane. You've got the Varus. Nautilus is still available if you wanted to go for maybe that pairing, or if you want to go for an Enchanter build here. A lot of good enchanters available and up for grabs. And the Karma, an early game champion that can make some moves, covered and locked in. I like this pickup. I like this draft from Dorado. Not taking away anything from Maelstrom, but I'm liking the draft from Dorado a little bit better.
Yeah, they have plenty of dive with the Sejuani, the Yone, and Bessa. They have all that on lockdown. And when you look at the team that Maelstrom has put together, Braum fits so perfectly well at preventing that dive and absorbing damage from the Varus with that door going down. So I that's why I immediately thought Karma. It was like they need something to try and win this bot lane, push the Sivir and Braum in. Braum does very poorly against ranged champs. And enchanters are great, especially when paired with Yone, but you're not going to get that smashing lane. So Karma really fills that gap where you provide a ton of damage early, but you can just build full enchanter items and your damage falls off, yeah, but you're going to be able to go give those massive shields. You already have tons of damage on this team, so I really like what Dorado have. And then you mentioned it though, Maelstrom has tons of damage. They've got great fight potential, great disengage with the Braum and that the Talia E, Unraveled Earth, and with the On the Hunt available as well for Sivir, that movement speed is going to be so crucial to these fights. It's really going to be about Maelstrom being able to poke out the members of Dorado to try and dissuade that dive from coming through.
Yep, it's going to be engage versus poke, I feel like, as the themes here of game one. And it's exciting to see a lot of these players that now we get to see potentially 2 times a week. General Ziliana playing some in the AVL as a sub, now coming in here on a main roster for Maelstrom. Very exciting. And for Dorado Gaming, a team that has a lot of experience in this league. See what they have here in this season. Before we take it to a quick break, Jack, let's go ahead and jump into the Dragon Draft. I know it was gone last week, so I have to go back onto the week 1 stats. And as always, it is going to be me first. You're just too good at predicting them. I'm going to go with the Ocean Soul to start it off. I'm going to do it.
Very successful here. Even saw some success in the AVL last week. So I'm going to grab those Lucky Charms, Chemtech, and Hextech.
One of these days, I'm just going to consistently stop giving it to you. I'm going to go with Mountain, and I'm going to go with Cloud. I'm going to leave you with Infernal. I'm a little worried about the Dragon Draft after you got that hat trick last week. You definitely are, things are heating up in terms of you picking the correct ones more consistently. But nonetheless, we're going to take a quick break to get ourselves out of the spectator delay. When we come back, we'll be into game 1 of this week 3 matchup. See you guys soon. Hello, everybody, and welcome now to Game 1. We are on the Rift. Maelstrom Esports versus Dorado Gaming Zeta. Match with a lot of familiar faces here at Aegis Esports. Familiar teams, familiar champions. Wait to see if anything comes out of this 5-man death squad. Void going to find it, going to be able to dash away. They'll be just fine. So, I want to ask you here now, Jack, because we have not seen it, I think, together, is the Taliyah jungle. Taliyah versus Sejuani. We've seen it before, but it's been, I think, over a year since I've seen Taliyah go back into the jungle here, Jack. What's your expectation for it?
Well, I think that it still functions mostly in the way that it did before. A lot of the reasons that Taliyah fell out of meta in the jungle had a lot more to do with item changes and just its general power in the mid lane. Mostly operates as a power clearing jungler, seeing as there's no gank set up because you can't, unless you just land an incredible shove into Unraveled Earth combo, you're mostly looking for the laner to set up that gank. So being able to navigate the jungle extra quick with that passive, clear your camps, going back and getting items like Faded Ashes and Dark Seal to get that extra ability power, you really just become this menace in team fights and around objectives. And I think that when you're playing this poke-oriented comp, or at least zoning-oriented comp with the Taliyah, the Jace, the Sivir, being able to have your jungler so capable of setting up at these objectives, holding firm, getting vision without giving anything up mid lane as Taliyah often would have to, I think that this is a very good adaptation, and also works well getting Jace into the mid lane where he has a pretty decent matchup into the Yone.
We'll start to see those first little bit of clears coming in. Both junglers going for that bottom side clear, both at relatively the same pace. The 5-man squad from Maelstrom that went into the top side, they are going to find that vision. They are going to know that Kites is there. They're going to know pretty much that they're on the red buff now. As we take a look at what the response has been just across the Rift, that's the power of that Karma in the early game. The aggression in the lane, the wave clear, and already being able to take out almost a turret plate with Joker on the Varus.
Yeah, and I love the Arcane Comet as the keystone because, as I mentioned in draft, you can still opt for the Enchanter path, but having Arcane Comet early in the game, your Mantra Q slowing massively, and just your normal Q slowing as well, you're able to land those Comets so easily, just provides you with even more damage in this early phase of the game. I'm also really excited to see Unsealed Spellbook get buffed and come back into the rotation. I think it makes support gameplay so much more interesting to watch and gives them so much more potential. Having those double smites for objectives, having them able to teleport around the map to make plays. We see a first play being made.
General Ziliana in trouble, going to be forced to flash. No knockup taken by Trinity. So General Ziliana going to be able to get away. They do still have that teleport. And no follow-up ganks as of yet. I think that could be due to some vision. A little bit of vision spotting out where Overrate is. Back is going to process there for Overrate. That is jungler back. I think that Trinity, or I'm sorry, that Kites might have gotten a little bit of a reward there. Might have been able to take the Raptors. No, actually not able to do so that time. But this time, they might be able to get a reward on General Ziliana. No, not going to be the case, but dangerously low.
A good patience by both Kites and General Ziliana. Not having to panic, just bunking them back under turret range as we see Karma roam up topside, leaving Varus alone. They found a good back timer, so they're able to not really lose much for Joker in that bottom side, and they've already went back. They've got that tier. They got us those boots with the Arcane Comet themselves for Keystone. We know almost certainly it's going to be Poke Varus, and now Karma's just chilling topside, laning alongside Void. It's past the 4 minutes, no more lane swap detected coming through, and so just allowing Void to push that wave in, get that back, and now really thing that's The only person who's really hurting this is Karma, and if your support's hurting, it means no one's hurting, because no one really cares what the support's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really worried about a level 4 Karma that is maybe a little bit less behind in gold than their opponent. But what I am happy about is these early micro wins for Dorado Gaming Zeta. This could be an opportunity for them to then capitalize on it and turn them into big neutral objectives getting completed. Possibly an effect of Dorado Gaming going for that play topside is the easy take of this first dragon here. We're about a minute in. There's really no one that can respond to it. Just takes a little bit longer than expected. And the Mountain Drake is now finally secured.
Yep. Great job playing on that tempo, understanding when that Karma roam first came in, it was off of a back from the Maelstrom bottom lane. They understood there's no point in me staying bot side. Varus has already taken their back. They can sit here and clear. I can just go up top side as Overrate getting a little bit overzealous here.
Oh dear. Flash already used this. Ivy Jump goes actually right back into where Overrate was going. And so first blood, that money's going to be given over to Trinity. And we've got a skirmish in the bottom lane as well. Level 6 completed now for Joker. Chains of Corruptions are ready. Half HP on a Poro on this Braum. Could be scary. Nope, everyone will back away. But we got to talk about it again. Money going into this Yone's pocket early on.
Yeah, really risky invade there Overrate tried to pull out, because you know that Trinity is going to be able to roam first just based off of the basic positioning in the wave. And even if General Zilyana could have roamed at the same time, I'm pretty sure Yone Sejuani is going to win that 2v2. So just a bit of an overextension there early in this game. You don't lose too much. You'd prefer to not be giving Yone any extra resources this early in a game. But at this point, I feel like you're in an okay spot, not bleeding too much, but it's gonna have to stop at some point, because the scaling on the side of Dorado is certainly there. Sejuani is going to get pretty hard to kill. Yone obviously is going to start scaling extremely well, even once they get this first item. Varus, once you pack on a couple lethality items, will start really packing a punch, and we're already seeing the bot side of Maelstrom start to fall behind his Overrate again with this aggressive invade without Prio.
And Kites maybe want to go for the Glacial Prison here, and they're going to land it on two. Overrate once again. Oh no. Somebody's got to be calling that out. That is a big kill. And now Dorado Gaming can try to go for these Void Grubs and add it to their neutral objective lead.
So they didn't know that Dorado had swapped the map, but even if Ambessa couldn't be there, you would assume that Joker on the Varus would be there, so that public execution that end up locking down Overrate would have still just been a Chains of Corruption. The CC would have been there regardless. So, I mean, the first time kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, just going for a cheeky invade, not too bad, but that one really is inexcusable. You know that they're backing, you see that they aren't on the map, and you go for another aggressive invade without any vision ahead of you for the blue buff. I understand wanting to get ahead when you are this power clearing jungler, but just really not the safest decision, especially considering the itemization, going for that Lost Chapter to manage your mana cost. You're not getting that Faded Ashes to give you that extra clear power, that extra burn that the component item provides. So questionable decisions being made by the jungler of Maelstrom.
Yeah, I mean, it's very high risk, high reward, right? If you're able to get some of these early kills or early neutral objectives, for me as a Taliyah player, yeah, if you're able to do that, you can then just really start to take control of the game. It's so easy. Once you start having no issues with mana, once you can start just going around the map and doing whatever you want, it feels good. Or you could have games like this where falling behind this early really makes it harder for you to be able to come online at all. So I'm wanting to see if Overrate is going to continue to try to go for these high risk, high reward plays, or if this is now the indication that they're going to try to go for the step back as we are going to get another engage here. Void does have the flash. Did anyone else use a flash there? No, they did not. A flash for Weaver's Wall. Void can get back under tower.
Yep, able to just neutralize. Summoner used, and they'll have to take that as a win. 35 seconds until Dragon, and actually pretty great timing because Void doesn't have teleport either, so wouldn't be able to get down to the Dragon. They are going to commit to the dive here, but I'm honestly not sure if they're going to have the damage.
And now here comes the teleport. Public execution is also available for Void. And so Dorado Gaming Zeta just saying, we do not want to even attempt to go, or attempt to give you the opportunity to go for this all in here. Gonna have Trinity just teleport up. He's gonna be able to walk back down into the mid lane. Not a lot lost because of it. And I should maybe highlight this in the mid lane. Very impressive CS numbers coming out of General Ziliana and Trinity, even for Joker as well. All very close or surpassing that 10 CS a minute.
Yeah, this is something that I've always admired about General Ziliana's game. We saw this throughout the playoff series we cast in AVL, but incredibly impressive CS numbers. And I think that's one of the things that when you start watching or casting at this level, it's one of the first major things you notice is a player's ability to CS efficiently and have the most gold possible on their champion. One of the things that makes players able to climb to this level, as Chemtech Drake will go over to Dorado, and it will be what you left me last up, Infernal Soul on the Rift.
I can't believe that I continue to do this. I continue to give you the Drake that it ends up being, as yes, it is going to be that Infernal Soul. I mean, if players are already going to be packing a punch, adding that infernal stuff is, or adding those infernal feathers are going to be continuing to pack those punches even further. As Chain of Corruption is going to be whipped by Joker. Do they have the flash? They do. Are they going to be able to get away from the Unraveled Earth? Yes, they are. Joker and Hoshiyume trying to be able to navigate this. An expensive escape for the Dorado Gaming bottom lane, but they get out of it and don't die. Not yet, at least.
General Ziliana wants to make that change. Incredibly fancy feat by Joker, but I don't know if they can get away now.
Joker now gonna have the barrier. Does Hoshi have any further support? No, not this time. General Ziliana finally gonna get rewarded here for that aggression, for that invade, that gank, whatever you want to call it. It will now be 1-0-0. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Void is feeling the effects of Jin's build. Plated steel caps gonna make it harder for them to go down. But Void also gonna have a little bit of healing back, but now here comes Poro. There's the public execution. There's the dominance. There's the stun, and finally, Void goes down. These are some very long fights in these lanes.
And what did I tell you how much I love Summoner Spellbook on these supports? I saw the teleport coming through, and I was like, well, General Ziliana is bot lane, so probably going to just cross map to try and help this play as well, but nope, it was the support. Poro comes flying in, flashes the wall to get there immediately, and I think that these plays across the map have been totally worth it for Maelstrom. I mentioned that they were starting to bleed out quite badly. 2 dragons given over, 3 void grubs given over, more turret plates for Dorado, and in that last play, yes, Maelstrom used a lot to get the kill bot side, and then even more subsequently to get the kill top side. But the way Dorado was responding and reacting was also giving Maelstrom an advantage. Trinity moved bottom side to try and help out, but they actually should have just stayed mid lane, because they would have been able to get more turret plates, push in the wave, and deny CS and experience. And now, in response to the late lane swap, because Void, excuse me, was dead, Sivir got a whole turret bottom lane.
Glacial Prison is ready for kites if they want to go for it. Nope, they will get the teleport out of Leth, as ultimate had to be used by Trinity in the mid lane, but Jin is now going to be targeted. Hoshi going to land that route. Here comes the Weaver's Wall. Here comes another teleport. This coming through from Void. Almost has the public execution ready. But while that teleport was happening, Joker was going to get hit in the face with a bunch of rocks and boomerang blades. Going to be forced back with only 150 HP remaining. Poro does not see where the Vars is at. Fight is not over, as Jin is now going to come through with their own teleport into the mid lane. General Ziliana is here. Going to take a couple turret shots, going to force a flash out of the Yone. And finally, we're going to get this skirmish ending.
Yeah, fighting all over the map. Great way to respond in the top lane. I think that the idea there for Dorado was good, but they kind of got a little too cute with it when they hit their CC abilities on the two different targets, trying to lock them both down for the duration so that they can kill the both of them. I think that's a little bit too ambitious, and you see the result of that. Neither one is locked down long enough to actually get the kills, and then just really well done by Maelstrom to get up there. I think they might have panicked just a little bit in the coordination of their abilities, as they weren't able to lock down a kill either. But both teams look like they are trying to make plays proactively and ready to respond. I do want to mention we do have a substitute, Leth, on the side of Maelstrom. He's also familiar, played in these leagues, played on teams. I believe Jaw is the supposed starter, but we have Leth, like I said, experienced player on a Sivir, something they play often. So being ready for this upcoming dragon would be sole point for Dorado.
Yep. Talking about that Sivir on the hunt available as well, but it doesn't look like they're going to be going into the bottom lane. Oro is going to be rotating topside. General Ziliana going to take a wallop there from Void, and the dragon has now been started, and this might look like a seed. We'll have to see if Oro decides to go for a teleport here. As General Ziliana is going to get hit by the public execution, Void is still going to come through with this. I don't think that they were expecting that Poro was going to be there, but Poro misses the glacial prison, and 4 members of Maelstrom are now on the top side. They've got to get something out of this, because they're giving over soul points. They might even give over the mid-tier 1 tower here, Jack. And yes, they will be able to at least get that tower down in the top lane.
Yeah, I can't really begin to theorize what the strategy has been behind giving over these last 2 dragons. I understand committing top lane to try and get the turret or the kill, but they gave over mid lane turret. They've given over bottom lane turret, full gold to Trinity. This Ambessa is going to become a problem. I know that the KD might not be that impressive, but you see the damage being put out already onto Jace. Going to become very difficult to deal with. And when you match that with the frontline potential of the Sejuani, the rest of the dive on the team, going to become pretty untenable for Maelstrom to deal with. Also, Poro, I don't believe they've landed an ultimate just yet, so we're going to need to see a lot better coordination coming out of these future fights, especially because every dragon has to be contested from here on out.
And I think it has something to do with how much mobility Dorado has, right? Like, Joker is relatively immobile, but Void, Kites, Trinity, they all have ways to be able to get out. But now here comes an engage. On the hunt's going to be used. Poro does not have Glacial Prison, or does not have Glacial Fissure, but Glacial Prison is up! And a lot of damage coming through! But once again, no one going down quite yet. Hoshi even going to be able to land the root on Overrate. Overrate going to try to flash away. Poro's dangerously low, and Poro's going to go down. And now Maelstrom might completely collapse here, as Void is going to go down. That's going to be a go for General Ziliana, going to be trying to get away with the flash, but not able to get over the wall. Rinse is still there. They will allow for the Jace to escape. They will allow for Leth on the Sivir to escape, but they gave so much money over to Trinity and Crits there.
I mean, that fight was crazy. Playing on an absolute knife's edge. There was a moment there I thought that no one was going to die again. The fight's not even over yet. Trinity's in trouble here. Has a shutdown.
Yeah, big shutdown gold available. Who's going to get that money? And it's going to be the Jace, who did get, I think, both of those kills in the earlier fight. Yeah,
got the kills in that earlier fight. Gets that massive shutdown there. Going to get them that fully stacked mana. Going to be putting out so much damage here. No more worrying about that mana bar getting too low. And now again, Poro finding themselves caught out again, but I don't know if they have the damage right here. Might not want to chase it for too long. Here comes Ambessa.
Void is there. Leth coming in, but they're not able to land a root on it to the Sivir, and so they will be able to get out. On the hunt is ready. And now we got to be taking a look at what the next minute and 40 seconds bring to the table. What are both these teams going to do? Because now, because of Maelstrom deciding not to go for those early dragons, we could potentially be having a 22-minute Dragon Soul here, Jack.
Yeah, unbelievably early, and it's unfortunate for the side of Dorado because Otacon is on the exact same side of the map. This is a point in the game where you can push your advantage and try and maybe trade one dragon for the permanent Otacon buff. But because it's on the bot side, you can't trade objectives when you got to fight for them right next to each other. So, bit of an unlucky spawn for them. Want to take a look at where some of this gold has landed in these past fights. 2 completed crit items for Sivir. If you look at the gold lead in mid lane, it's actually quite equalized because of how much Jace has gotten. And the gold lead in the jungle being a little bit different isn't as big of a deal because Sejuani mainly going for these tank-oriented items. Yone does have their first crit item though, so has about 1 more item before this champion is fully online. Great presence here though, bot lane.
Yeah, Trinity going to be taking one of those acceleration gate charge shots from General Ziliana. Now have less than a minute remaining, less than 30 seconds remaining until this dragon spawns. Otacon is available. And Dorado gaining Zeta know the importance of being able to be in the river for this one. If they can secure themselves the Dragon Soul, it will most likely mean that they're going to be able to secure themselves the Otacon as well. And so I'm looking to see what the initiation is going to be, if there is even going to be an initiation here in the river. For now, however, we get to see the skirmish in the top lane as Void going to be able to get away from the dominance from Jhin. Inside track going to be taken by Dorado Gaming Zeta, and the initiation from Heights only going to land 1 with that Glacial Prison. And now General Ziliana potentially in trouble themselves. Fate Sealed going to come through, and General Ziliana is going to go down. Trinity going to be able to get out with that Unbound Soul. Void is now here, coming through with a teleport. Going to be able to get everyone pretty much away from each other at a complete collapse for Maelstrom. And I got to give that win over to Crimson Trinity, finding General Ziliana off guard.
Yeah, I mean, this is the full potential of this dive comp. I liked the way, honestly, that Dorado was playing that fight to start, utilizing their poke, trying to split up the side of, I like the way that Maelstrom started that fight, trying to split up Dorado by having Ziliana on one side and Overrate on the other side of that fat wall. But the dive potential on Dorado is so strong that Sejuani can fully dive onto a target, and it looks like no one else is close enough, but Trinity unbounds that soul, uses the Fate Sealed, and just barely is able to catch Jace on the end of it. Immediately they annihilate him because of that Sejuani passive, and I mean the rest of the fight is pure cleanup once Void is able to hit that public execution, get into the backline. He forces all of the damage that's left on Maelstrom to disperse and just focus on staying alive, but there's just no way they can possibly do that. There's way too much damage at this point.
And that is both neutral objectives in the bottom lane going the way of Dorado Gaming. We're 24 minutes in. The gold is only about 1,000 in favor of Dorado, but all of the extra bonuses that they get because of the Otacon and the neutral objectives are going to mean that Poro has no chance. Fate Sealed used, Shades Corruption used, and now they got a 4v5 power play for the next 30 seconds.
I mean, they've had every benefit you could possibly imagine. All the adaptive force they're getting from those infernal dragons amplified by Otacon. They've got the feats of warfare as well, so they're going to be able to utilize their gold better than Maelstrom can. We still don't see some very crucial item completions for Maelstrom. We're waiting on our first attack speed item for Sivir, extremely crucial. And then we also are going to need to see some more penetration items coming through as well, because Sejuani is not going to get any squishier. They have to fight for this ban. They have to fight for everything going forward.
Yeah, Baron started by Dorado Gaming, but Overrate going a little too forward. Gets annihilated by Trinity. Now 7-1 and 3. That was 2.5 items to 1.5 items in favor of the Dorado Gaming mid laner in that 1v1 fight. But in the rest of this team fight, Dorado Gaming is absolutely dominating. They once again get multiple members down, not losing a single of their own. They have a 2v5 power play for the next 15 seconds, which is going to secure them Baron.
If you told me that this was a 10k gold lead, I'd believe you. If you told me this was a 3k gold lead, I'd think you're lying. They are smashing them in these team fights. I could have told you that Dorado's plan during that fight was to turn away from the Baron. It's exactly what they did as soon as Overrate got in range for that Glacial Prison. Sejuani threw it out. They locked down the enemy jungler, and they could have easily taken that win, turned around, and gotten Baron, but they just kept chasing, and they weren't able to get back in range very quickly, but then they locked down Poro, got that kill, and Bessa was able to dive into the back line, and they did it with almost no resistance coming from the side of Maelstrom. And now you saw how horribly one-sided that team fight was. Now Dorado is starting to build up a gold lead. Now they're up by 4.5k. So it's only going to balloon more and more. I mentioned that Kites isn't getting any squishier, and you saw in that team fight he was tanking up damage from all 5 members as he pushed forward, barely put a dent into this incredibly tanky champion. And now Trinity pushing forward. They're going to try and fight here.
Yeah, they're going to try to initiate onto this one. Redemption going to get used to keep everyone on Dorado healthy. Oh my lord. Oh my god. They were there and then they weren't. I mean that's I think the power of the Infernal Soul right there, Jack. You get that explosive shot when members are clumped together like that. You just annihilate health bars, and that is exactly what happens here. It is just General Ziliana up without any other neutral objectives. This looks to be a potential close to game 1 here. Oh my good lord.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things we saw in this is Dorado drafted champions that spike early into the game across every single lane, whereas Maelstrom opted for a bit more scaling. And when you make the mistakes that Maelstrom did, when you give over all those objectives, you're going to lose in this fashion. Exactly how it played out.
I mean, I wouldn't be lying if I said that it was a jungle diff here. Kites did so much work landing those glacial prisons, being effective, and unfortunately for Overrate, I think the early game aggression was really going to be their downfall. They needed to start to get that gold going. You can't be picking up your first item, which isn't even a like a Seraph's Embrace or the Archangel Staff. Instead, you go for the
Hextech Companion, or the Luden's
Companion. The Luden's Companion. I keep on calling it a revolver. I don't know why, but
it used to be called that.
Yeah, it used to be called that, and then things changed. But anyway, you end up going for that instead. And then, because you're so squishy as a Taliyah, you're just not allowed to frontline, especially when you are behind like that. And I felt like maybe they were a little bit too frontline, and Kites just said, okay, here's a Glacial Prison to the face.
Yeah, you really want on the Taliyah to be building for more sustained damage output, whereas Luden's Companions often paired with more burst-oriented champs. And we mentioned early the difficulties with the Taliyah jungle is that you're not really able to put out that DPS. Your setup, your zoning, you're trying to just secure the area so that you can easily take these objectives. And as you can see from our post game, no objectives were taken. I think that it's also a bit on Poro's shoulder as well. They really have to start making more use of the champ, because not having that reliable front line really put them far behind. I also think when you see Varus come through on the other side, we mentioned it in the break about giving over the Varus, although I do think that being able to flex the Jace, I'm fine with giving up Varus, but you have to match that 80 carry with an 80 carry that is going to be proactive during the course of the game, because Sivir, you're just ceding the entire game to Varus at that point.
Yeah, it definitely felt like, now looking back at the game, I'm trying to figure out a moment when Maelstrom would have been in a mechanics advantage is probably the wrong word, but like when their team was at a higher power level, just base, than their opponents, if gold and objectives and all of that were the same, I don't think that I see one. I don't see a single champion here where I'm saying, okay, this champion is now finally going to eclipse their opponent with effectiveness, unless we get to the 35, 40-minute mark, which you shouldn't be trying to try. I don't think you should be trying to focus on getting the game that long. I mean, those are my thoughts. We'll talk about it, during the break. We'll talk about it during draft number 2. Folks, we'll be back in just a bit to start that up. See you guys shortly.
welcome to game 2 of our series here in week 3. Moose will be joining us shortly, but we're going to jump straight into the draft. Same bans to start, at least for Dorado, Gwen, Syndra, Rumble. Don't want to give that Rumble over to Maelstrom that they do play. And then on the other side, jungle picks or jungle bans staying the same. Pantheon, Volibear being taken off the board, and the Jinx is also gone with those 2 high prio 80 carries being used in that game 1. Dorado is going to start with an Aurora flex, and just in time, Moose. Aurora first pick. We had some complaints about it in the past, but because Dorado can flex it, I like it a little bit more.
You know, it's getting hot here in Vegas. You gotta take care of the puppy. I gotta. You know, it's just warm. I'm sorry about that distraction, folks. But Aurora, I'm scared, to be honest with you. It's one of those champions. If it gets going, it's just going to be unbeatable. And I think the way that Dorado was able to just collapse onto Maelstrom, that is going to be something that I'm worried about. Galio Viego, though. Viego, a lot of opportunities to be able to get resets, to be able to get those early kills on it, or onto champions, potentially even just do a lot for a team. On the other hand, though, Wukong, one of my favorite champions, one of the first champions that I ever played in League of Legends, coming through. The Draven gonna get hovered. I'm a little bit less excited about the Draven and they decide to go for it, but hey, it's cool. Okay, Zaya, thank you.
I love Zaya into the champs they have so far. Wukong, a little bit polarizing right now. Some people think it's very, very strong. Others think it's just another 80 bruiser. I'm kind of like a Viego. Like, it's good in solo queue, obviously. In competitive, it requires a bit more to get going, and I think pairing it with the Galio is perfect. Viego loves follow-up engage, so he's not just diving and getting one shot. So having a Galio able to taunt down targets, knock them up, I think also Galio works so well against the Aurora, even because, you know, they flex, like I keep saying, they flex the Aurora. Galio can do the same. Just go wherever the Aurora is going, win that lane. And Smolder coming in, you know, last game, we saw the scaling AD pick. I think that it's a little bit more, like, it makes more sense here because Zaya is not going to have, like, a crazy spike where it's like, oh my god, Zaya's unbeatable right now and we have to wait for Smolder. Zaya is going to stay around the same usefulness, especially with Rakan being taken out in the bans here. But so far, I like what both teams are building, and as always, it's going to be about really putting those final pieces together, making sure these final bans don't allow for any slam dunks, as we see what so often happens, the support pool, those engaged supports being pinched, and it's going to leave up probably only, either leave up only Leona or leave up only Alistar.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see... I was gonna say that. I was gonna say if you take out Leona or Alistar, then you give the other team that support. It kind of feels like a bad news bear situation. We'll see if Dorado Gaming decides to go for a tank support here, like you said, the Leona. I think it would be fine to pair up here with the Zaya. There obviously are, in my opinion, I think better picks. But now if you end up going for the Leona, we'll see if they do decide to do it. But you know, both Zaya and Wukong and the Leona, when it does inevitably get put in, you've got this one radius with the Featherstorm, Solar Flare, and Cyclone, where anybody's in it, you can get hit by 3 ultimates within a couple of seconds, and so you're just able to you go from 100 to 0 here. And I want to see what we're going to be putting in for the last champion. Could still be some flexibility here, Jack.
Yeah, I wrote down my prediction for what the support was going to be, and now both of them are wrong. I had down Nico and Shen, and I was 0 for 2 there. I think Nico would have gone really well. Has great disengage, also has great AoE lockdown. Leona does pretty much the same, except a little bit more susceptible to that disengage that Alistar can put out. Ahri obviously confirms that Aurora almost certainly going top side. Ahri is still one of the most present champions because of that agency, the ability to make plays, but General Zilyana, they are one who will play whatever the matchup necessitates. And so they are going to lock in a champ not oft seen in this current meta. Lissandra, another really great facilitating mid laner, doesn't provide too much damage on its own, but when you have a Viego jungle, when you have a Smolder scaling up in the bot side, you can afford to have a more supportive mid laner.
Yeah, and still the ability to be able to lock somebody down, that potential for initiation. I'm here for it. I'm very excited to see if they're able to make it work. Especially if you can start to get that early gold going. When I'm looking at both of these teams, though, however, Jack, it feels like we're going to be waiting a minute before really any of these champions start to come online. Right? Like, it's going to be like the early game feels like it's going to be so difficult for both sides.
Yeah, we always talk about that bridge and where is that going to come from. I believe Galio, as long as Galio has mana and health, this champ can kill any AP laner at any time. But you really don't have a bridge for Maelstrom. Viego is going to be okay early, really hit a spike mid with all that facilitation from the mid and top lane. But then once they fall off, it's going to be a lot of pressure on Leth's shoulders, on the Smolder, to keep the game going and keep that momentum and pick up for that facilitation, start taking advantage. Whereas on the side of Dorado, Ahri is going to be able to make plays once level 6 hits. Xayah, if you can't, get this Xayah, lock her down quickly, that Featherstorm comes out, the repositioning is so dangerous, and then your ability to rip those feathers. The Wukong clone is going to be difficult. Aurora is just going to jump out of nowhere, and if Smolder, it's not only the Smolder that has to be careful, the amount of damage the Aurora can put out, Viego's got to be on the lookout too for getting just blown up in an instant. So I think I'm really going to be focusing on Aurora during the dragon fights, because I think it's overvalued or undervalued in certain positions where instead of going for a kill as a burst mage, if you're in a dragon situation and you just find the jungler and take them down to like 15% health, they're out of there. Like, so you don't have to get the kill in some of these objective fights, and I want to see how Dorado play around that.
Yeah, and we'll definitely see as we get ourselves into the spectator delay now. Let's go ahead and jump into the Dragon Draft. It was an Infernal Soul, and I'm going to take away the Lucky Charms this time, Jack. I'm going to go with the Hextech to start off this draft.
All right, I'm going to move on to picking some of just the best Dragon Souls. We're going to go for the Cloud Soul, and we're going to go for the Infernal Soul.
Love it, love it. I'm going to take Ocean, and I'm going to take Chemtech, so I'm going to leave you with Mountain. And folks, that is going to do it for the Dragon Draft. That is going to be the spectator delay starting here in just a moment. So we'll be back in just a bit to start game 2. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for game number 2. And something that I didn't talk about earlier, Jack, was how we talked about how good Blue Side has been for teams here this season. Not just in the AML, but I think just overall, Blue Side, the ability to get that first pick is so impactful. Surprising to see Maelstrom decide to go for red side here. Game 2. As we are getting some cowbell, we're going to get some emotes coming around. But I do want to get your thoughts on that, Jack. Why are we seeing teams still try to opt to go for red?
I'm so glad you asked. I think it is just, there's too much priority being put on counterpick. Counterpick is obviously very important, but you don't just get counterpick with the last pick in the draft. Like, you can counterpick on blue 3. You can counterpick on blue 4-5. Like, there are so many options as we see electrocutes exchanged here early in the mid lane. And just to give you a piece of how strong blue side has been so far in these first 3 weeks, blue side currently sits at just under 60% win rate. So you are starting at an enormous advantage on the blue side, and it also opens up your bans, because here in the AML, a lot of really OP champs get left open because there are so many players with extra proficiency on more niche picks. So they have to ban Volibear, they have to ban Syndra in this game. For TV General Ziliana, they have to ban Gwen. And when you have to ban these champs, it leaves open the Varus's, the Jace, all these other niche or more meta picks, excuse me. So I just think that there's so many advantages to blue side that are underappreciated.
As we see the mid lane battle come through, the Galio, which could have very easily gone into the mid lane, going to be now going topside against Void. Still, I think, a fine matchup, especially since you are the Galio against an AP player. Now here comes an engagement on to Trinity. General Ziliana gonna be relatively low. Oh my god, Trinity outplaying Maelstrom there beautifully. And that's first blood for Dorado Gaming.
Yeah, it seemed extremely desperate. I fully understand the idea behind that attempted gank, as now we see Leona popping into the jungle here. They want more.
And they might be able to get it. Yes, they do. Oshiyumi's going to get the stun onto Overrate. And just as they come in, the feat of warfare is going to be claimed by Kites as General Ziliana goes down right after using teleport. Poro going to flash away saying, I want none of that. What a spectacular start to this game here for Dorado Gaming.
I'm a little lost for words. I don't even really fully understand how any of the members of Maelstrom ended up in that position. I mean, Dorado just dove so deep, and you're seeing now in the top side, this is why you hover that Galio wherever Aurora goes. Ari has the benefit of being able to CC down Galio, being able to use that Spirit Rush to avoid it, but Galio just dominates Aurora, can lock her down, can put out so much damage. The base damage on this champion is insane. And so really the only saving grace for Maelstrom is this Jhin in the top lane, and now we're going to see another gank bot.
And this time Joker and Hoshi going to be the ones that are targeted, but Poro, you're going to be able to flash Poro, going to be able to get it, but Left is going to go in. And Kites is going to be able to pick up a second one. That is 2 kills for 1 in favor of Dorado Gaming. Overrate is here. Without any CC, I think that the Maelstrom jungler is going to be able to get out. But gold in the pockets of this Wukong and this Xayah.
That look like some of the ganks I get in solo queue, where you're like, oh, it's great position, the enemy team is pushed up, let's have the jungler come in, and then by the end of it, you've maybe gotten 1 kill, but both of your teammates have died, and it's like, what the hell happened? I mean, just going way too deep. Once again, Poro continues to put themselves in very dangerous positions without any real plan of how they're going to get out. Now, Hoshiumi, mid lane, ready to respond.
Is there, despite Poro and Overrate making this a 3v2, Hoshi's presence and the ability to stun makes it impossible for that gank to really bear any fruit. And I think part of that as well is the resource management on Trinity comparatively to General Zuliana. General Zuliana without a teleport, without a flash, no mana at this point. So it's really, really vulnerable. And on top of that, Trinity has done so well at landing these big charms. Like, in all of the kills that we've seen, I think it's all been initiated and instigated by getting a really fun charm and a really good charm there. So really nice to see Trinity showing that off here in this one.
Yeah, I mean, when people ask why Ahri remains so prevalent in the meta, you show them games like this. If you are skilled on the champion, you're going to be able to make plays.
Oh boy, and that's another play made. And that had to have been a maximum distance Zenith played there by Hoshiyume. Going to be able to give Joker their second kill. One of the more proficient players of the AML is going to be, or is Joker. And so when you have a support that's going to be able to facilitate those kills, even when you're the one that was initiated upon, definitely has to feel good.
Yeah, and I wanted to take a look at something we were mentioning during the last game in terms of just the proficiency and efficiency of the players that we are seeing here today. Taking a look at highest CS per minute. I know we're early into this game, but in the top three, you have tied for first Trinity and then tied for second Joker. You also have Leth, who's on the other side, is tied for third, but this just goes to show the way we've watched these games play out. Dorado were able to gain so many advantages from just staying patient, being in the right place at the right time. We finally do see a bit of a concede there for Dorado, giving up this dragon, recognizing that they want to swap the map, they want to swap lanes, and not having Hoshiyume on the bottom side means that there's no real ability to contest that dragon, so they'll give one over. But also I want to give huge credit in this series to Hoshiyume. Joker obviously able to do well on their own, but Hoshiyume, if you remember last game, was able to roam topside and get a lot of work done as the Karma. So I just am super impressed by this Dorado Gaming Zeta squad's communication and macro skill.
When you get an AD that can play by themselves, that can be independent and not give gold over to their opponent, and then when you get a support that can be anywhere on the map and facilitate whatever they want, it really puts your team into a significant advantage. And so shout out again to Hoshiyume. Don't want to, ignore what they've been able to do as we get ourselves the first round of neutral objectives completed. Dorado Gaming going to be able to get those first 3 Void Grubs probably without issue here. Unfortunately for Trinity, they get caught out. And Hoshiyume is going to be in trouble, going to be forced to flash away from their own jungle. And that kill is going to go over to General Zulian, or I'm sorry, going to go over to Leth on the Smolder. Probably one of the better champions that you want to get early kills and early gold into.
Yeah, that was important. I'm glad to see Maelstrom still being competitive, still looking for picks there, finding Trinity, trying to make a move in the jungle, and that time, almost canceling that recall would have been so important to get even more gold into Joker. But they execute that Flash Lissandra combo way better than they did earlier in the mid lane, utilizing the ultimate this time to fully lock down the Ahri, allow all the follow-up CC to come through. And Smolder getting that kill, I think, is important because Viego really failed to get ahead early, utilize that early power spike. And so I don't think you really have the time to salvage that Viego spike and rely on that champion at this point. I think Overrate is just going to have to rely on the mechanics and try to just... We've seen Overrate in our time casting together and in your time casting the AML. We've seen Overrate play well, make big plays, and we're going to have to just rely on those mechanics and pass over the victory, the win condition into the hands of Leth on this Smolder, get scaling, get this dragon online, and really try to put out a lot of damage against the champions on Dorado.
as we reach the 10-minute mark. We're going to get a cleanse used by left to be able to avoid the solar flare by Hoshiyumi, but this fight is not over yet as Poro's going to get stunned. Unbreakable will used. Here comes Mom, followed in by a Spirit Rush. Not enough, but Kites is there. Kites is going to go for the double kill. Are they going to be able to get it? Little extra movement speed from the Cyclone. Unable to get the kill onto Poro. Overrate there just in time. Chaotic fight. Could have got a lot worse for Maelstrom.
Incredible stun there at the end by Overrate, just barely saving the life of Poro. I know why. Kites was waiting to use that dash, wanted to wait for the Alistar ultimate to run out so that damage reduction would go away, but gave Overrate just enough time to come in. And I liked the committing to that dive bottom lane makes a lot of sense. If you're Dorado, you want to push this advantage early. Ahri's there, Kites is there. Wukong is never going to be stronger than at this point in the game. You put out so much damage, and that kill was a little meme-ish where Leth is standing back thinking he's out of range, and then out of nowhere a clone monkey comes out from behind you and bonks you on the head. So unfortunate to see that kill go over, but we are starting to get some critical item completions on the side of Maelstrom. We have the Essence Reaver completed for Smolder, so able to stay out on the map longer. Hollowed Radiance for Galio is going to be able to match Aurora or Ahri in a side lane now consistently. Malignance for Lissandra will help buff up not only the Galio, but provide some extra damage. And Triforce means Diego can try and start making a name for themselves in this state of the game.
And I mean, I feel like at this point, you've got more items completed for Maelstrom. Still not yet a completed item for Trinity. Still not yet a completed item for Void. But I think that that's also attributed to them going for a couple of more expensive items in the shop. But effectively at this point, I think Maelstrom has the item advantage if they're able to find the right fight to use it. Inside track taken by nobody here in the mid lane, but here comes Mom. Lev gonna get a little bit of damage in onto Kites, and that's about it. But a Charm is going to land in on a Poro. Poro's gonna be down to half HP, gonna have to drop the Unbreakable Will. Are they gonna be able to get a lot? Are they gonna be able to stay alive long enough? So 4 for support goes down. Here comes the entrance from Jin. And Leth is going to be able to get some damage in. But now here comes Void. Going to be able to get a double kill. Here comes Trinity. Going to be able to get another one. There's a triple kill for Void themselves. Jin is the only member alive. And it's going to end up being a 4 for 3 in favor of Dorado. Game they also get the dragon. It's the Infernal Soul once again, Jack. My goodness.
I mean, I certainly know how to pick them, and I mean, I feel like Maelstrom do too, because I was really worried over the course, or at least the beginning of that fight. Dorado was able to hold them back for so long while Kites secured the dragon, which was so important that they don't give over. Double dragons kind of become victim to what helped them win last game. But they just didn't have the damage to fully wipe out the side of Maelstrom. Galio was able to come through. Left was able to stay out of range for so long. Overrate was able to get a reset off to regain some health. So the fight ends up being pretty 50-50. I would actually say that that was 50-50 because yes, Dorado got the dragon, but the side of Maelstrom was able to pick up a bunch of kills that I don't really think in a much different situation they would have been able to grab just based on the champion's strength on the map right now. So I think that if you're Maelstrom, you'll certainly take that team fight.
Agreed. And it just gives your carries more money as well, right? Especially since it was the Smolder that got it, but Realm Between Realms coming in. We've also got the Headbutt Pulverize coming through, as well as the Mom, as well as the Ice Tomb, or the Frozen Tomb. And now we're gonna get even more Summoner spells used. as Trinity is going to get taunted by Jin coming in to protect that mid-tier 1 tower. A lot of action across the rift. Nothing really happening quite yet with any towers going down or anything like that. But I think that will be happening here momentarily, as Leth is going to be able to take that bottom tier 1 tower down, and Joker probably not far behind, aiming that top tier 1 tower down, taken away.
Left playing extremely well. This is another one of those situations we saw it last week where, well, yes, this player is a substitute. We've seen Leth play on many rosters, more than capable of having a starting role on a team in the AML, pushing their advantage here. And Poro again looking to punish Void.
I think they're going to be able to do it. Void is going to go down. But what is the response here from Dorado Gaming? They're looking to see if they can get an inner tower down. Great is going to get hit by the knockup, but it wasn't the critical shot. So General Zilyana going to have to use that teleport. Try to keep that middle tier 2 tower alive. And I don't think that Leth is going to stay. No, they are. So are they going to be able to get that bottom tier 2 tower down? That would make it, I think, a big win for Maelstrom if they're able to pick that up, but I don't think they're going to be able to do so.
Just wanted to push in those minions, try and deny as many as possible. Still think that was really good by Maelstrom. I love this commitment to taking down Void, not only because the flash was down, but on that repeat, didn't have that ultimate either. So there's no way that Aurora can get out when you send the 4-man bot. You would have loved to get the tower as well, so good response by Dorado getting that mid lane turret. But I got to give credit where credit's due. Last game, we had a lot of criticisms for Poro on the Braum. Even earlier this game, that flash pulverize into headbutt back was really well played and was able to secure not only the first kill on Void, but once again wrapping around gets you that second kill. So I think maybe he might have heard us, and now we're seeing some really critical items come in. Looks like Smolder is going to forego the Spear of Sojin that we sometimes see, is opting for a full crit build, just wants to get the IE, already has the Essence Reaver, trying to accelerate that spike as soon as possible to really match that 100% crit chance with getting that true damage ability, or getting that execute ability. And you see how tanky Galio is at this point. This champion is so difficult to deal with when they get ahead.
General Zilyana going to take a little bit of damage there as the Infernal Drake has now spawned. Not a Drake that needs to be fought over, but we are getting some initiation from Maelstrom. Drake is going to get taken. Dorado Gaming not really going to be able to get much over all 5 people, or all 5 champions getting completed there. I stand corrected. Trinity was able to get that inner tier 2 tower down to add a little bit of gold into their pocket. And they've also got 6 stacks on that Dark Seal. So what's the strategy here for Dorado Gaming, knowing that we're seeing those power spikes from Maelstrom coming on a little bit early?
Yeah, I think they're trying to avoid fighting as much as possible right now, but Void again getting caught out.
I mean, just being very liberal with using that ultimate there. Oh my god. Overrated is going to find their way on to Void. But General Zilyana, just every time they see that Frozen Tomb up, they are using it. It's already on such a low cooldown, so I don't disagree with it. But being able to catch out Void once again, I feel like Void is kind of being cursed with what we've seen a lot of top laners do, which is not checking for vision, not checking where the enemy team is at, and then getting punished severely for it.
Yeah, there's a disease that is spreading across the Aegis Marauders League and Aegis Vanguard League, and it is top laners overextending multiple times within the same game and dying in the exact same fashion. And we talked about it even in the draft. General Zilyana just always plays the champion that is required for the draft. They don't care what type it is. They play artillery mages, control mages, they'll play lane counters, they'll play facilitating champs. And this game on the Lysandra, the thing you notice every time that Glacial Tomb comes through, it's when they have damage next to them. It's when the Viego is right there. It's when the Smolder is right there. Always using the ability when they have the highest chance possible to secure a kill. And now Void starting to learn from that lesson, heading to the lane with a turret to defend them. But Otacon is up and available, and I think Dorado, they're kind of fighting with themselves. They don't know if they should take it now. We mentioned the item spikes coming through from Maelstrom. Do they want to fight on these timers? We see the Navori Flicker Blade come through for Xayah, so about one more item till that champion truly comes online. But it's not going to get any easier. They're going to have to really find some outplays, because you're seeing how difficult it is for them to fight into Maelstrom. If Maelstrom get there first, you can't walk into Lissandra, Alistar, Galio without getting CC'd for at least 5 seconds. So they've got to pick their fights extremely carefully.
And that second dragon for Maelstrom has been secured. Be on their way to getting that Infernal Soul. If they get it, it would be probably at around 31, 32 minutes. Unless they're able to pick it up immediately here. Right now, we're seeing Kites be seen on Vision. Cyclone is going to get used. And everybody trying to find something here. And Overraid's going to go down. It's going to be 1 for 1. But Leth is going to be on a killing spree. Here comes Void. Here comes the teleport from Jhin. So it is still a 1 for 1. Jungler for jungler. Otacon is still up for grabs. Jhin gonna take a charm, gonna take a stun, gonna be down. A lot of damage, but Void is gonna get hit. Gonna be in their realm between realms trying to be able to escape. Can they get away? The Blast Cone, yes they can for now. He can deal some more damage. Jhin is gonna get out for a second, but a shutdown. Joker's gonna be able to take out the Galio, and the front line collapses for Maelstrom. And finally, Dorado Gaming gets a breakthrough. And they get gold into the Xayah's pocket.
I mean, this is the difficulty of drafting a team comp that's very high on facilitating champs, but very low on damage. That fight started off in what would look like a very even fight, where both junglers end up killing each other. Okay, it's a 4v4 now. No more smite, so we don't have to worry about objectives being taken in the midst of the fight. But for Dorado, okay, they lose Wukong. They still have Aurora, Ahri, and Xayah for damage. Hashiyumi can put out a ton of CC, and there's also a ton of CC on these other damaging champs. Whereas on Maelstrom, Galio doesn't do much damage. Lissandra doesn't do much damage, and Alistar is all of your tank and frontline. So it's all up to Leth, and he had to flash aggressively to pick up 1 kill in that fight. But Kites might have put themselves in a dangerous position, has to use a clone, and just as soon as we're done finishing our fight over the Otacon, we restart around this dragon.
Yes, we do. Infernal Drake is now available. Like I said, Infernal Soul Point for Maelstrom if they're able to pick this one up. Summoner spells down across the board for pretty much everybody. A flash available here and a flash available there, but not much anything else. As Dragon is now going to get leashed by Maelstrom. Hashiyumi now going to try to come in. Here comes a flank from Crits, and they're going to get the knock-up onto multiple members. Leth is going to go down, but not before being able to take out Hashiyumi. And Overraid is going to be able to take the kill onto Crits. But this fight is super chaotic once again. Overraid does not die yet. And now the dragon is going to most likely go into Maelstrom's pocket. Yes, they will. It ends up being 3 for 3.
That fight was so extremely close, every aspect. This is one of those moments where I wish we had replay. Leth at the start of that fight was so low, but Mom barely saved them, allowed them to get like maybe 3 extra auto attacks, but it ended up being the difference because Overrate was able to get that first reset onto the Wukong, dove down onto Joker, and although the Heartbreaker was dodged by the Featherstorm, was able to advance with a Spectral Maw, get just enough damage down to hijack that Xayah and take over, preventing Trinity from continuing in the fight. And Void and Trinity did a lot of work as well, but just not able to secure as many kills on their end. That means Soul Point for the side of Maelstrom, and they still have the scaling in their advantage. Smolder has that third item, going for the rapid fire cannon, wants to have a bit of a safer way to dole out damage over the course of these fights. And now with that Sundered Sky as well, Overrate going for this more bruiser-oriented build. I like that a lot more when the enemy team has a lot of burst damage. You want to be able to survive that initial spell rotation. And if you were to go something like that Kraken Slayer, Titanic Hydra, you wouldn't have as much ability to stay alive in those circumstances. And I mean, that was just a really unfortunate fight for Dorado to have to take. You obviously have to contest any dragon that'll put the opposing team on soul point, but if you look at the items of Joker just now coming out of base with the Infinity Edge, they were sitting on all of the components, may have even been sitting on enough gold to buy the item, but just couldn't afford to back for it because they wouldn't have been available to fight in the pit, would have essentially had to just give the dragon over.
The other part of that equation, though, Jack, is that Rabadon's death cap is almost completed for Trinity. We've seen how effective they have been at being able to get the charms landed, and they are putting in some work gold diff-wise against General Zuliana. 2,000 in the lead for them right now. But the other part of the build that I wanted to talk about here for Trinity, not only do they have that Rabadon's death cap, but they got 10 stacks on that Dark Seal as well. If they opt to go for that Magi's, they could be looking at a very powerful Ahri in their arsenal moving in to the late game.
Yeah, I really like this. I know that the Roa build was there for a second before it got nerfed, but I really like this specific build for Ahri. You get the Malignance, not as much for the damage on ultimate or the burn on ultimate, but for the ultimate cooldown, so that you can just always have Spirit Rush up and available. But the Horizon Focus gives you a ton of damage. This reworked item, I really think, should be bought on more champions. Also gives you the vision so that you can have total information during some of these fights where you're trying to find angles constantly. Now finishing that Rabadon, I think that is the right decision to build that first before finishing the Medjai's. But you're right, if that Medjai's gets completed, this Ahri could one-shot Smolder if a charm hits. And that would mean you're essentially losing all of your damage at this point in the game for Maelstrom. I find it funny, every time we cast together, I feel like these games fly by, but we're 27 minutes in. Baron is up and available. We got a minute 15 on what could be Soul for Maelstrom. We have hit a lot of our item spikes. We've hit a lot of our peaks for some of these champions like Viego. You know, Lissandra's not going to be doing any more damage. So you're seeing right now Dorado are starting to feel that pressure. They want to start this Baron right now.
And if they can get it, if they can get the kills, it could be the end of this game. General Zuliana gonna get charmed. Oshiyumi gonna be taking a lot of damage. They're gonna go right in, but Lev is gonna be able to get that mob to be able to get that first kill with that execute. But lots of damage coming up. Cyclone gonna be able to avoid the knock up there, but Void is gonna go down to left. That is the second kill for this Smolder, but there it is. There's the Rabadons. It is so big. Overrate coming in. Great use of the Featherstorm. Great use of the recall. Oh my God! Another beautiful charm landing. Joker gonna be able to facilitate more kills here, and Tritz is gonna be able to score the ace. Barely surviving, not gonna get hit by the mom execute, and now go straight over to Dragon. Scary, but I mean, it's a Wukong. They should be able to do it.
Oh my God, Dragon's like, hey, what's up? What just happened right there? Comes up with 0 HP. What an incredible team fight. I mean, it started so weird for Dorado. They tried to do the same thing they did in game 1 where they start the Baron and immediately peel off, but Hoshiumi's just too far away, gets instantly deleted by Galio and Smolder. And I really thought that that would be the end of the fight, that Maelstrom was going to be able to wipe the rest of them. But, I mean, Trinity got all of them to half health with like 1 Q. So it was so hard for them to fully commit. Void put down an incredible ultimate to deal damage to the entire team. And the rest of it was just kiting it out. Joker playing on the edge so extremely well. Unstoppable Force having to be used just of the threat that Trinity could follow through on that charm landing. And Lef did a good job cleaning up at the end, was about 0.5 seconds away from killing Wukong with the execute. But just, I mean, you see how tense this game is. Maelstrom do not want to go to 1-2 series record, and Dorado are trying to show that their series was competitive. That 0-1 record does not fully show how good this team is.
General Ziana gonna try to go for an engage once again. His mom is gonna drop. Crits and Joker are gonna be targeted from it. Another charm landing. Oh my god, that orb deception taking out the tank, the front line of the Maelstrom. You still have Poro, but Poro no longer has the unbreakable will, and they will go down. Trinity wants to continue to keep the record going with those charms landing. Not going to be able to get that one, but Overrate is there. Leth is not part of this fight. Maelstrom, no, you do not need to be there with your AD, not part of that one. Trinity going to go golden, going to try to be able to get out. Oh my god! Instead of going for the Magi's, they go for the Seeker's Arm Guard, and that is worth its weight in gold. Trinity does not die. They take out Overrate, and now Dorado Gaming can go for Baron.
I mean, usually you don't say this when the rest of the team is performing as well as the squad of Dorado Zeta are, but Trinity putting this game on their shoulders, landing every charm, just instantly deleting every target that comes their way. And they could have stopped once they got the first pick onto Galio. That should have secured them the dragon. And then they grab the kill onto Alistar once that unstoppable force is down. Okay, now certainly they can't fight us 3v5. They dive over the back of the pit, kill off General Ziliana, kill off Overrate, get a free Baron at that point. And unfortunately, they don't have many pushed waves. Maelstrom doing a good job of protecting their structures by keeping these waves pushed. But, I mean, all of the scaling that we've been worrying about for the side of Maelstrom, Smolder completely online now, only about one item away from full build, not going for that full crit, but gonna grab the extra cleanse. It is still gonna be difficult, but if they can one-shot anyone, it doesn't matter.
Oh my god, and they're gonna try to one-shot Overrate here, and so Xiumi's gonna get taunted, but their job is done. They were able to get it in, and now here comes Void. A lot of damage available here for both Void and Trinity. But they're not able to get anyone else out of that, though. So it is going to be support for mid lane. As that was happening, General Ziliana going to get caught out. And that's going to mean that one of those facilitators for Maelstrom are not going to be available. If you look at the timers, there's about a 10-second window where Dorado Gaming is going to have Baron when the dragon has spawned. And so that could be their advantage that they need in order to secure themselves, soul point for themselves.
Yeah. Going to be able to use the Baron buff to push in these waves much more efficiently. Also, often doesn't get mentioned, but Baron does give you some stat bonuses, so going to help them in the team fight to start. We might see what they've been doing all series, which is they start up the objective and then they immediately turn and just blow up a target. I mean, Maelstrom has to play to their team comp. They keep walking in one by one. They're split up. They aren't really... They should be just clumping up. I understand that that's generally a bad idea, especially when you're playing against Aurora, whose realm, those between worlds have been so good. Leona has the solar flare. You've got the cyclone. You really want to avoid clumping up in most cases, but Ahri is just picking you off like fish in a barrel. You have to take account for that. And now they have such a good flank position.
Are they going to be able to get it over? It's going to be able to get away, but General Ziliana teleporting into a very scary spot. Hoshiumi's gonna go down though. That's gonna execute landing, but here comes Void. Realm between realms. Left does not go into it though, but General Ziliana goes down. Trinity is still alive. Feathers will fly. Overrate's gonna get rooted, and Overrate goes down. Leth is still alive. Jin is still alive. They're gonna go golden, but no, it is just Leth against the world. Trinity is legendary. 31 kills to 22. They don't even need Baron to try to initiate onto this dragon. It's going to be soul point for them.
Gonna be 6-6 or 3-3 in dragons, 6 total Taken. These are my favorite types of games. If they don't get Trinity, they will not win the fight. All of Maelstrom's guaranteed damage is in Smolder's pockets, and Smolder can't afford to get close enough to most members of Dorado if Trinity is alive. So they have to start focusing all of their CC onto Ahri. It's not impossible. They have long range engage. They've got General Ziliana able to use that E to get closer for the Glacial Tomb. You've got Galio follow-up. You've got Alistar follow-up. I understand the Zhonya's made it difficult in that last fight, but there are ways that you can make this work. And they have to start fighting with more intent. It just seems like they're looking at the first target available, but this team comp, you can't front to back into Ahri, Wukong, Aurora. I know we've talked so much about how good this Ahri's been, and I know Void struggled earlier in the game, but this Aurora is starting to do a lot of damage, and using that between worlds to chunk down multiple members during a team fight, it's gonna start to become untenable for Maelstrom Esports. They need to find an advantage soon.
Those upgraded boots completed for everybody as well, and also the completion of the final item for Trinity. It is that Magi's Unbreakable Will popped. I'm not sure if that was an error or if that was necessary. But
got hit by a charm.
Yeah, but even then, yeah. You look at how much damage they were able to do with just one Orb of Deception. Trinity is 8p. If we could just take a look at that stat, Caddy, that would be really helpful, because I want to see where we're looking at stat-wise. 426 stacks on the Smolder, but now let's hover over Ahri. Let's hover over Trinity here. I want to see where the AP is at. 817 AP. Rough.
I mean, that is certainly going to pack a punch. If we take a look at Ahri, well, they might get a fight soon, but quickly, I mean, Orb of Deception is doing true damage. It's going to be doing an extra 400 damage. But the Smolder stacks do so much as well. And just, you think of the repetition of Ahri, she doesn't have very high percentages, but she's able to repeat her ability so often, so much ability haste in that Maelstrom right now. So I love the way that Dorado are playing around these fights. I mentioned earlier how great the setup is for Maelstrom, but Dorado, they just find these little pockets of vision. They find these brushes to hide in, and it makes it so difficult for Maelstrom to find an angle to set up for. I do like that they're starting to split push a little bit. It's good to have Jin on the bottom side here so that he can try and pressure the opposite side of the map. It forces Dorado to respond, and now you see just that a little bit of added pressure, and finally Maelstrom have access.
They have access. They're going to be able to drop some vision of their own into the river, exposing Dorado Gaming a little bit if they want to go into the neutral objective zone. And now the dance continues as Dorado Gaming is now going to try to go in. Are they going to be able to clear out all of the vision? There is still one pesky ward there. And yes, Trinity will be able to pick that one up. And there is a little bit of warding still up for Dorado Gaming around the pit as well. So now it's up to Maelstrom. Can they get back in so that they could try to go for an engage? Because if Heights is able to get undetected around the vision and land a knock-up Cyclone onto General Ziliana and Leth, the follow-up there is going to be immense. And as we were saying that, Baron goes down. I don't even think that Maelstrom knew that it was happening. It went down so quick.
Yeah, and even if they did know, I really don't know what their answer would have been. You can't walk forward. If you see Ahri, you can't walk forward. Unless you know you can land your CC, there's just no chance. They've lost their split push in the bottom lane. Topside's pushing into their inner turret. They're now going to lose all control of the side lanes, but I like their decision making. Yes, they send Jin topside. They do sack the push bottom lane, but they recognize that they have to find a way to secure vision, and grabbing Scuttle Crab is an easy way to do that. It's a way that Dorado cannot use a trinket to get away from or get rid of, excuse me. They have to just deal with it. So it's going to allow Maelstrom to play a little bit safer, having that guaranteed vision. It lowers the options Dorado have to kind of sit and wait. But Ziliana's got to be careful. You have to assume every single brush has a group of Dorado Gaming. Poro goes in.
Naka going to land in onto Kites, but no! They're not going to find anyone out of that one. The charm is going to land onto Jin. General Zillion's going to use the Frozen Tomb on themselves. Is going to go golden as well. Left just trying to find an entrance to get any damage, but they can't. Despite being such a powerhouse, they weren't able to get into that fight. They were finally able to get the shutdown in onto Void, but now Shiyumi and Kites coming through. Shutdown is there. No, it's not enough. Joker's gonna score the ace. And Baron is still available for Dorado. They might try to end here.
They almost made a massive mistake. Trinity teleported out, but Leth was still there. Almost killed both Void and Hoshiumi. Excuse me, almost killed both Kites and Hoshiumi. Ended up only getting Kites, but Dorado, they will outlast them. They will out-macro you. And in the end, Trinity carries so hard, and Dorado Gaming Zeta will go up 2-1 in their series, or 1-1 in their series score.
12 kills, 16 assists for Trinity on the Ahri. Make no mistake, that was the powerhouse that they needed to have happen. And I mean, that last fight really needs to be broken down there, because the thing that I noticed was that Leth, who eclipses everybody in terms of damage dealt, 55,000, almost 20,000 more than Trinity, was unable to get into that fight to deal that massive amount of damage. And then, you know, once they get a couple of auto attacks in, yes, they're able to get a couple of those shutdowns, a couple of those kills, but they weren't there. And that just allows for the rest of Dorado Gaming to clean up shop, take out Leth, and take this series win.
Yeah, they just... I always like to take these moments as soon as the series is done to give a little praise to the team that was not able to pick up the win. And Maelstrom, I did think their draft evolved greatly from game 1 to game 2, but they had so many opportunities in the team fights. They were able to lock down one member in that last team fight. Unfortunately, I believe they locked down the Wukong clone, but they have so much CC, they can lock down a target, but they just never tried to lock down Trinity. I understand you're probably going to lose someone on the way, but have Alistar just barrel through and try to get you access. Use your flashes, use everything. You have to lock down Trinity. Otherwise, there is a 0% chance you're going to win these fights. And I mean, you see the damage for Void on the top side with that Aurora flex that we mentioned before game 1 even. The power of this pick early game struggled, but even in that last team fight, you really saw just how much magic damage they're able to put out. You don't only have to deal with Trinity at that point, you also have to deal with Aurora. So really well played. I was thinking after game 1 about giving my series MVP to Kites because I thought the Sejuani performance was so great, but Trinity had a great game 1 on the Yone, and I don't think there's any way you don't give that MVP to Trinity for this.
I completely agree. I do not disagree with that one at all. We've seen Ahris do absolutely nothing in games. Not landing a single charm, not landing Orb of Deceptions. This was the exact opposite. Every charm that needed to land, landed. Every Orb of Deception on multiple members. Everything coming up Trinity here in this series. Really, really nicely done. Congratulations to Dorado Gaming. And, you know, great series to watch and cast. With that being said, got a poor puppy I gotta take care of. It is like 110 degrees here in Vegas. I'm gonna go ahead and get going, take care of him. Hopefully you guys all take care as well. Be back again next week for week 4 of the AML. Another fun series coming at you at 5 p.m. PST. And if you guys are interested in more Jack Moose commentary action, be sure to check out the AVL as we get our semi-final best of 5 at 4 p.m. PST on Friday. Don't miss it. It's going to be a ton of fun. And on behalf of everybody here at Aegis Esports, have a great rest of your week and take care.